Farming Simulator is exactly what it says on the tin and gives players a chance to embark upon a realism-inspired agricultural career. The latest game in the franchise released on the 11th of November 2024 for PC, PS5 and Xbox Series. This game relies on as many real-world concepts as it can for its primary gameplay loop, and it is a series I did not expect to like as much as I did. I want to open with a big change from the previous games, as in Farming Simulator 25, there's the tiniest fragment of a story and a hands-on tutorial, where the player learns the basics of farming from their grandfather. This plays awkwardly and only touches the tip of the iceberg mechanically, but it's hundreds of times better than not having an interactive gameplay tutorial at all. Accessibility, in the sense of, can a gamer pick this up and play without any existing farming knowledge, is something this series has been lacking. In that context, this small gain is a vitally important step. The nature of the game is still a big open sandbox, and you can set all kinds of values and options on or off to tailor the experience for you. The game has some preloaded defaults, but if you're not interested in too much realism, you can dial in a bit more gamification here if you want. Farming Sim 25 has 3 maps to choose from, one that's inspired by the heartlands of America, one that feels like it takes inspiration from mainland Europe, and the other from rural Asia. For these, FS25 added crops like rice, spinach and peas, along with animals like water buffalo and goats. There's also an expansion to the production facilities that were added in the previous game, FS22. I put a lot of time into FS22, but one of the biggest walls to this type of production line progression was a combination of time and the repetitive nature of the game. Once you have a few fields and are growing different crops, you can spend literal hours preparing your fields, just to then wait for the harvest. I understand that that's a relaxing part of the game for some people. I know that there's an entire group of individuals who enjoy the slow, systematic and methodical march towards progression. Some days I do too. But I also like the idea of efficiency. I spent a lot of time and effort learning the steps to actually get this game to give me crops, which was not an insubstantial amount of time. Doing each step yourself across multiple fields takes literal hours, so as your farm grows, you start to use the game's AI helpers. And this is where FS22 came crumbling down. My absolute favourite thing about FS25 is the changes to AI. Specifically focusing on field-based tasks that don't consume a resource, such as ploughing and cultivating, the AI is very competent. You can often leave them to perform these with no micromanagement, as long as there is enough space around the field for them to create a headland around the edges. You are still going to run into the occasional moment where you genuinely want to drop your head against your keyboard because the AI dumps your tractor into a stream or can't start a basic weeding job. But this is much less frequent than previous games, and it does constitute a giant leap forward. Pun intended. Alongside this feature, there is steer assist for those who want to do everything themselves, but get annoyed that they're not ploughing in perfectly straight lines. These changes make a great deal of difference if you're a series veteran or are progression driven, but for a more casual player who's looking to play with their friends or experience farming simulation for the first time, there haven't been that many changes for you in FS25. There's the addition of natural disasters and engine changes, such as how the ground deforms when you run over it with the tractor. The ground deformation is much more noticeable than I expected, but is only a small area of improvement. One area that each of these titles does focus on is the modelling of the vehicles that you use in the game, with as many of these made as true to life as possible. These are quite impressive, particularly some of the detail, and you can dial some graphical settings up to really get lighting and fog effects looking realistic. As you'll spend a lot of time in these vehicles, this is surprisingly important. I'm aware that Giants aren't exactly a AAA studio, but I do need to talk about the technical issues in this game. There were flashes and texture flickers throughout the launch period, and even to this day, the game stutters heavily each time you encounter a new asset for the first time, such as exploring more of the map or navigating to the cab of a new vehicle. This appears to reset if you upgrade your GPU driver too, something I didn't think about until after I'd made that mistake twice now, and had to go through this ordeal again. There's also some issues with the engine. Specifically, the game seems unable to resolve momentum properly with some of the lighter vehicles, like on bikes. I also had some periods of severe crashing shortly after launch, but this was resolved very quickly. Texture and rendering issues have persisted right up until the point this review was published, and in particular, textures render slowly or don't show properly in reflections and in mirrors. Finally, there is a good level of mod support for this series, particularly if you want to brush aside some more of the realism and auto-load palettes, or give superhuman strength to your farmer. In conclusion, Farming Sim 25 feels like the first time the game's AI can be called a minimum viable product, and this would also be my preferred area of focus for the next game. A lot of the new content here feels like tidying up around the game's edges, and the new core gameplay additions are very lacking in vertical progression, such as there only being one relatively small rice harvester in-game. Balancing game progression against realism is of course hard, but this did deflate some of my desire to commit to rice farming long term. In spite of this, if you've never played a farming simulator game before but want to try, this isn't a bad place to start. I like the maps here, particularly the Asia-inspired one, and the addition of this year's new produce, a legitimate tutorial, and buffalo and goats might be enough to tip the scales for some, but ultimately this feels like an awkward balancing act, trying to reconcile whether you want to pay for this game or watch some tutorials online and get FS22 or 19 on a sale.